Miranda.
What are you doing?
I was working on something. It was completely somewhere else, zoned out. That's why I got on so late. I was working on another project and looked at the time. I was like, oh my goodness.
Oh, I talked to a girl them today. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Let me.
Yeah.
She just texted me and asked me. She said she was trying to get into this, and it was saying she had to wait because she's her first time getting on, so she don't know we're gonna start at exactly 8:30. I'm gonna go ahead and let these people window because it's so late. Huh?
He just text me.
Let me get these people let in. I don't see John, so let me see. Unless I missed it. I miss him? No, I didn't.
I didn't.
All right. Yeah, I don't see him. Yeah, when he jumps in, then one of us, if you see him before I do, Yeah. Hello everyone. Hello everyone on YouTube as well.
Lawrence from Whitby, Ontario, Canada.
All right, all right. Welcome, 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 welcome. Welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Hey. Good to see everybody. Good to see everybody. Look at my list here. Sharanda.
Welcome. What's up?
I was looking at this list. I was about to ask which one of these you want to attack, but you can't see the list I'm looking at, so you never better answer that question. I'm looking for some with some of the most checks we got over here. Yeah. I got a couple of them that we can go over, but I will take some questions too. All right, guys. So good seeing everybody again this Monday. Hope you guys are having a great start of your week. And we'll do introduction real quick, get that knocked out. Sharanda, you and I real fast, and then we'll go into a little bit of Q&A and then a couple of our Monday night topics. So if you would like Miss Sharanda Ivy, you can go ahead and go first on your quick introduction, then I'll do mine, and we'll go ahead and move in.
Well, welcome everyone. My name is Sharanda Ivy. I'm here in Georgia, Middle Georgia. I've been with Legal Shield for, this is our 10th year. I'm a certification trainer. Been recognized 2 years for Field Trainer of the Year. We are Sapphire Elite Associates and 50K ring earners. I don't know if I said that. 50K ring earners, and we've written over 1,000. We've earned the 1,000 Production Award, working on 2. And so we focus on this commercial space for the company as well. And so with that, we do a lot of, cross-selling and selling packages to clients to help the entire company and the entire driver. So, with that being said, if you are focused on this space, it gives you the opportunity definitely to service the whole client. So just definitely make sure you understand that concept of what we do. So with that, I'll pass it over to you, Dunbar.
All right, real quickly, 14 years I've been with Legal Shield, 8 years I've been a trainer. I trained in different areas. I'm a 100K ring earner. Got a couple of 50K ring earners on my team. And for me, stopping at the CDLP place training in this area is all about niche marketing for me. So I really enjoy the idea of being able to sell something directly to a person that's fitted directly for them. So That's why this is where we train at here, because this is the opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about how to market this product to trucking companies as a group or as an individual membership. We also talk about cross-selling the other planes and all those other things here, which is important because we want to make sure that you know how to get them in this program and why it works and why it wouldn't work for specific things that they do. So we are going to take, see if we got any particular questions about anything. And then one of the things we'll start with is why it's important to understand why, even when a person does not have a CDL license, it's important to still have this membership if they drive commercially, because that's another question that does come up quite often. Still, people will say to me, hey, you know, I don't have a CDL, or this guy I'm speaking to doesn't have a CDL. Can they still use a membership? So that's important to understand how that's marketed to that person and why, and what you should be saying about that. So that's something we can touch on today too. But before we get into that particular topic, sometimes me and Sharanda and John, if John's on with us, we will do kind of just like a quick, you know, Q&A. You got a couple of questions, ask them, we'll answer them. So we'll see if anybody has any of that before we move to that particular topic. So if you have a question, if you would like to drop it in the chat because you don't want to unmute and speak it out, you go ahead and do that, and Sharanda or myself will pull it out of there. Or if you want to raise your hand, either electronically or raise your physical hand to let us know who you are, we'll let you unmute and ask the question. And you only get one follow-up question. So when you ask the question, there can't be a question that leads to a question, that leads to a question, that leads to a question. Is that fair? So one question, one follow-up question behind it, that's it. And then we're gonna move on to the next person or move on to the topics that we want for everybody to kind of get a little bit on. So anybody with any particular questions before we go into marketing the plan to a person who does that have a CDL license? And on the YouTube side, just put I have a question. I'll see that and then we'll go there. So I see Lawrence Fuller. Come on, Lawrence Fuller. Go ahead and unmute yourself, brother.
Hi, I'm Lawrence from Ontario, Canada. So actually, I've been a truck driver for 23 years, but only in Canada. So now I'm trying to do the selling in the U.S. So how would I go about when I talk to a customer? How would I, because I guess I got to have a field trainer, right? So how do I stop that and get the field trainer in it? Or what do I say kind of thing? Because all I'm hearing is you guys are training and you guys are doing it already. You guys don't have a field trainer, you guys in the US, but I'm in Canada. So I want to know, where do I stop or where do I start? I don't know if you understand that.
Okay, good. I think I'm gonna try to let Sharanda answer that first.
Thank you.
Because Sharanda is kind of really big on the field training, using the field trainer. If you don't know everything you should know, especially when it comes to opening up a group. So Sharanda, if you want to hit that first,
So we have in our back office, we have a list of all the certification trainers that specialize in CDLP, and then you have a list of all the field trainers. And that on that list, it'll tell you who specializes in CDLP. And you definitely can connect with whoever, you know, who you choose to. You just, if you're gonna focus on CDL, Lawrence, you can make sure they that field trainer focus on CDL. Okay. So I know we're in the same team, so you definitely can reach out to me and you know and get some help there, and you know, however, but you have the option to work with whoever you want. Okay. But you want to work with somebody, a field trainer that specializes in the CDL. Okay. But you can reach out to me because we're on the same platinum team. Okay.
Thank you.
So that's for anybody. I mean, Lawrence asked that, he's in Canada. And for those that are not on the same team as I, let me take that back and tell you the answer. So it's a list in the back office. It's a list on the resources. You can pull that list of field trainers. And if you're going to focus on this space, you want to ask those questions. You know, we're all independent associates. And so you have the ability to ask that person you reach out to, hey, let them know. hey, I'm focusing. I really, I'm a truck driver. I really want to focus a little bit more on transportation or, drivers and things like that, or that type of group. Are you comfortable with that? Okay. It's okay. It is perfectly okay. Okay.
Good stuff.
And you don't have to feel like you stuck with one. You have the option to work with whoever you want to when you want to. Okay.
That's good stuff.
All right.
So that's actually a really good question too, Lawrence, on the side of a lot of times we get so involved in selling whatever we sell. And sometimes we actually forget the simple things like, what do you say? Right? Like, what do you say? Like you walk into a place and you see a truck driver, what do you say to them? Just in a world of sales, whether it was CDLP or not, I always tell people to just start a conversation. Always have a couple of icebreakers that you can pull right off the top of your head, right? If you've got an icebreaker that you can pull off the top of your head, just put your hand in the air so I know who I'm talking to. And if your camera not on and you're doing it, then you just raising your hand for yourself. I need to be able to see you. But if you have a couple of icebreakers, I always have a couple of things that I can say when I see a truck. I always have these conversations, which works really well. Because I do sales for a living, because I sell things, I always have conversations back and forth with myself at home as if I was seeing a truck driver, right? So I practice on my own at home. So if I run into a truck driver or whatever, because I sell other things. So no matter who I run into, I know how to dialogue with them. And it doesn't necessarily start with the sale. It just starts by saying hello and we're having some kind of icebreaker conversation. For those who have been joining us on here for any amount of time, y'all heard me do my example of walking into a truck stop to get gas, because I normally get gas for my vehicle at truck stops. So when I go to a truck stop to get the gas, if I see a guy, what is my number one sign that a guy is a truck driver or a female is a truck driver? Their headset. I call it a Blue Parrot, but they might have some other brand, but they've got their headset. Plus, once you start doing CDLP for any amount of time, and I'm talking about a couple of months, you pretty much know what a truck driver looks like, whether it's male or female. And it's not about it being stereotypical. You just can kind of tell. And then you just start, there you go. Right? Lawrence has one up there right now. See that headset he has up there? If I see them on the headset, I normally ask them who they drive for and how long they've been driving. And typically that person asks me that question back, because they assume that because I'm asking them that I'm in the trucking industry. And because it's a niche industry, they normally reciprocate with a question similar about who I drive for, how long I've been in the industry, or do I drive, or am I an owner operator, or do I drive for somebody, which gives me an opportunity to say, and this works every time, if you don't drive. Now, if it was Lawrence, he would answer differently because he does drive. I would say, I don't drive for anybody, but I work with truck drivers and trucking companies to make sure that their MVR stays safe and to make sure that their safety score isn't going through the roof, and to try to prevent as many audits as possible. That's something that I would say just to pique their attention, because that lets me know I know a little bit more about them being a truck driver other than the fact that they drive a truck. Is that fair? Right? So when you say that back, now they're kind of like, oh, okay. And then normally the next question is, so how do you do that? Or what do you do? Or so like, who do you work with? Or they ask some kind of question, because that's not a typical thing for a person to say to a truck driver, simply because most people they're not MVRs, and audits and safety scores is not a conversation that a truck driver would have with somebody outside of that industry. So you've got to know when you're doing that, right? It doesn't matter what you're selling, always have a way to be able to open up a conversation, and then not be aggressive, just be a general way to have that conversation and be able to hit on a hot point. What does a trucker probably hate worse than anything else? Is to get stopped. I mean, and I'm saying in the world of where he lives, and obviously there's things in life that he would not like worse than that. But I'm talking about in the world of driving a truck, which probably the worst moment for that trucker. They get pulled over, right? To be getting written a citation or a violation, knowing that 5 or 6 can come behind that. What's the worst thing for a trucking company owner, right? Is to get audited, get shut down, find out they got to take their trucks off the road. That's kind of the worst moment for them. So I'm letting them know that I'm in that space, because that's normally going to get their attention. Is that fair, guys? So you just got to know how to have a general conversation with people. And again, I know we always been told all our life that talking to yourself makes you crazy, but believe me when I tell you, we all got a little bit of craziness when you talk to yourself or not. Talking to yourself when you in sales, that is the best way. I mean, even when it comes to you diffusing situations, right? Talking to yourself and playing the part of both characters allows you to go into a controversy, a conversation, a debate, or a sales presentation with much more confidence, if that makes sense. So learn to really present to yourself. Learn to come up with those scenarios. You got to play that game to yourself, right? If I saw this guy Anthony coming out of the grocery store with a headset on, what would I say to him? Sometimes I'm literally getting out of my car to go into a place, and I'm like, if I see somebody, right, that I could opportunity to sell to, like, what would I say? You have to play that game because that's going to happen. And the worst thing you want to do, and put a 1 in the chat if this happened to you before. How many times have you walked by somebody that you could have pitched to, didn't, and now you're feeling all bad, sitting in your vehicle, going home, and walking away from that scenario saying, man, I could have said this, I could have said that. You should be having that conversation before you run into that person. Whenever I leave the house, I assume that I'm going to run into a prospect somewhere for what it is I sell. And it doesn't matter whether I'm selling my coaching, whether I'm selling my training, or whether I'm selling some form of Legal Shield membership or becoming an associate. It doesn't matter what it is. They're a prospect of something, but it's about engaging with that person first and allowing that conversation to head in that direction. But if you won't even open up your mouth and speak, then boom, right? You get out your vehicle, you see a truck in the parking lot of the grocery store you're going into, you know it's a trucker in that bad boy, right? You know it's a trucker somewhere in that grocery store because it's an 18-wheel out there in the parking lot. That means that when you walk into that grocery store, what should you be doing? Thinking about, if I see this guy or this woman inside here, what am I going to say to them? Start preparing yourself. Don't see the truck, have that conversation to yourself like, oh, it's a truck driver here, and then let that conversation leave your mind, and then walk in there and see the trucker and just ignore him. Don't pitch, don't say what you offer, because guess what happens? That could be Lawrence, and Lawrence could leave that grocery store and 2 hours later get stopped. 2 days later get stopped. 2 weeks later get stopped. And if you started a conversation with Lawrence, now that Lawrence has somebody that he can call to have a conversation about this membership and why this membership will work. So we know that the membership is useful, is necessary, but are you walking by people because you don't know what to say, because you're an introvert, because you think they're going to say no? If nothing else, find out who they drive for and get their information. Take it one step at a time, right? So I see Norman, and I don't know his name is Norman. He's coming out of a place, and you know what, let's use a girl, because you know, girls drive too, right? I see Tracy, and Tracy's walking out of a place, and I say, when I see her walking towards me, you know, with that trucker look, I say, look, you drive 18-wheeler? And she may say yes or no. She may say, well, I drive box truck or whatever. She may have a response that she drives, but not an 18-wheeler, whatever Tracy says back. And I say, so let me ask you a question. Like, the company you drive with, do you guys do safety meetings? Do you got like a good relationship with the safety manager? I'm only asking because I provide a service that helps companies from getting a high, a pretty bad safety score. And we also try to help to make sure you're not getting audited by putting the drivers in a membership that'll protect them on the road. Like, is there any way I can get the information from you to be able to call that safety manager? Just something like that, right? Because now she's thinking like, oh, he's not really pitching me, he's pitching the company that I work for. So come up with a couple of lines and some things that you can say. The more you talk when you go out, the more prospects you have. And we already talked about the key result areas. And remember, the first key result area is prospecting. So if you don't do that well, you're gonna have to get your prospects from somewhere if you're not gonna open your mouth and get them. So hopefully that helps. That was a really good question, Lawrence. So hopefully you guys got something out there answer on that. All right. So anything else to add to that, Sharon, before we go to the next question? Good.
No, I didn't answer it. No, I didn't answer him. So you good.
All right. Anything in the chat? Did you see anything in the chat? I don't even have my chat open here.
Oh, no, just ones.
Just ones. Okay. So anybody else with a question? Raise your hand or unmute. Let us know. If not, we'll go on to subject here. Going once. Going twice. All right, good stuff. And nothing in YouTube. Okay. All right, so let's talk for a minute here about offering the product to somebody who does not have a CDL license, but they're considered to be somebody who holds, who is driving commercially anyway, so that we get a little bit of clarity on that for those who still, who either knew or just don't understand it because they just never understood it. Remember, with our CDL program, it's really important for the person who's driving commercially to have this, even if they don't have a CDL. So it could be somebody that's driving maybe box trucks. Just they could be driving for a company that doesn't require them to have a CDL, or they could be driving for maybe a HVAC company or some other company that sends them out in some kind of truck or van or sprinter and says, hey, this is what your job is, but you don't need a CDL to drive this vehicle. But they could still use our membership because they're driving commercially, not just because they drive for a company, but because they're driving to create income, which is probably one of the most important things to understand about that. So when you're talking about those kinds of people, when you find out that the person does not have a CDL license, still ask them a little bit more about what they do, so you'll know whether or not the membership can still work for them so that they're protected. Because if you go and market this program to a person who is driving commercially, even if they don't have a CDL license, and they get pulled over and get a moving traffic violation, and they try to use the regular family plan to fight that, if they're using the family plan to fight that violation or citation, and the lawyer realizes that they were driving commercially, they have the ability to not fight that citation or violation for that individual. So you want to make sure that they do understand that because they're driving commercially, that they will still need a transportation attorney to deal with that on the CDL side. That's how that product works, so that you don't end up selling the wrong program to a person or approach somebody with the CDL, right? And because sometimes we approach people that way, right? I'm talking to Vanessa and I'm saying, I'm just throwing around the word CDL, assuming that she has one because she jumps out of a daycare van or a sprinter van or something that I think she may have a CDL. And I'm saying, oh, I got something for you that'll really protect your CDL, your CDL that you have. And she comes back and says, oh, I don't actually have a CDL. And then now you stumped, because you had this whole pitch going in your head, this whole CDL wraparound deal you had going on, right? You had your presentation already, and then they stop you cold by saying they don't have a CDL, and you don't understand that them not having a CDL does not mean that you can't still sell them that membership. So I want you to understand that you can, so that that doesn't stop you. When a person says, oh no, I don't have a CDL, you can then proceed with that membership sale because they're still driving commercially. Now, it's a little bit more, in my opinion, it's a little harder of a sale when they don't have a CDL license. You don't have as many points that you can make, obviously, but you still can market them the plan. And our plan is certainly set up to protect them even if they don't have their CDLs. So it's important to remember that, especially when you're also in companies, like just say, for instance, somebody here is prospecting a painting company or a HVAC company, and you realize that there are 7 or 8 vehicles in the parking lot of that company where there's people driving those vehicles. That's an additional sale for you to make when you go in there. If that company has 30 employees, right, but 5 or 6 of these employees are driving those vans every day to jobs, then that's your opportunity to sell those individuals not only the regular family plan, the identity theft, if that's what you're selling, but be able to upsell that CDL membership as well and let the company know where it's beneficial to them on that sense. So I'm gonna turn it over to Sharanda to talk a little bit more about that, see if she has anything to add on to that as far as when she's out talking to companies and how she utilizes that, or what she may say back to somebody who does say, I don't have a CDL. So Sharanda?
Okay, so it's just something I had to learn. I mean, years ago when I would run into companies and run into guys that did jump out that box truck or a type of vehicle that you wouldn't think that they had a CDL. So non-CDL drivers, just like CDL drivers, if they're driving up under authority, meaning that company is running up under either a DOT number or operating authority. Our plan protects them because they get violations. So if they get pulled over and they have an inspection and, you know, they get some violations in that goes against that company's authority. If they don't have the proper paperwork, non-CDL, it still goes against that company's authority. So they have to, so it's about the language. So when you're prospecting, you shouldn't, that's why we talk about knowing the language, because we have to be careful, because when we say, hey, I want to protect your CDLs, everybody that drives commercially up under a DOT number or operating authority doesn't necessarily have to have a CDL. And that's when we relate it to, you know, box trucks and things like that, depending on the weight that they're carrying. Like Dunbar talked about companies that, the painting company. He talked about those companies, the Sprinter vans, the home delivery people that are, they're working for a company, but they may not actually, some painting companies do have DOT numbers, right? But most of your delivery companies, like the medical supply delivery people, they don't always have a DOT number or anything like that, but they're working to earn a living, right, for a company. So like he said, they would benefit from our CDL plan. So I know we call it a CDLP plan. That's what corporate calls it. But in the market, you really should change that wording to a commercial driver's legal plan, because you're going to run into a lot of people that don't have a CDL endorsement. And the moment you say, we offer a CDL plan, and they don't have that endorsement, you lost the sale, because you told them that's what that plan does for it. You know, it's a CDLP plan. That person will say, well, I don't have a CDL. So now they're going to tune you off, because if you don't really know how to come back and make that suitable, or show the value of, or let them know that it really covers the commercial driver, right? You lost that person. That's from experience. So you have to know that everybody that has this plan may not have the endorsement, but they're driving commercially. And that's because of the type of company that they're working for. So, so when we talk about the painter, the painting company, or the medical supply place, the little Sprinter people that, like the people that used to bring my mom's oxygen used to come in a van, you know, that's a company. And that guy, he was working for a company. And if he had an accident, like Dunbar said, our personal plan wouldn't have covered him. It would have been at a 25% discount. So that's the difference in non-CDL and CDL drivers. It's based off the fact that they're driving commercially versus, just because they don't have the endorsement, the plan still protects them. And the language should definitely be commercial driver. We protect commercial drivers, not CDL drivers, or this plan is a CDLP plan, because you will lose a sale because of the wording.
Commercial driver's legal plan. Commercial driver's legal plan. So let me get some clarity, Sharanda, on this, because I don't know whether I thought about this before, forgot about it.
Let me when you was talking about that, Lawrence asked, what about the UPS guy? Believe it or not, Lawrence, some of the brown truck guys, a lot of them don't have a CDL in the brown truck. In the one that comes to your house, a lot of those guys don't have CDLs. A lot, hey. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. So that's what I'm talking about, like a UPS Purelator, because I know a lot of these guys that were 18-wheelers, but they have the guy that go to subdivision and houses. So I was wondering if there were a plan of the CDL. So but you just stated that yes, they are as a commercial.
They don't have CDL CDL, so you have to be careful how you approach them.
Okay.
Okay, because the brown boys, they don't have to have a CDL in the truck that comes to your house.
Mhm.
Some of them may, but they don't have to drive that truck. Okay, but they need our plan.
As a commercial.
Okay? Because they're driving to earn a living in that truck. They just
Okay.
don't, that guy is just like an individual who drives a smaller, 24-foot or 20-foot box truck. His truck's just a little bit bigger. But most of those guys do not have to have a CDL to drive that truck.
Okay, thank you.
But they need our coverage. Yeah. All right.
So what that mean? That means that when
wanted
that
to
guy
address
drop
that.
that package off, you don't say, hey man, I got some, hey man, listen, let me give you my business card. I got some protect your CDL. Cause I know what y'all doing. I got some protect your CDL. And they're like, I don't have no CDL. You are deflated. You done messed up your whole deal. Cause you assume the guy got a CDL. So Sharanda, let's take that guy. The guy that the brown truck guy that's going through your neighborhood dropping off packages, or somebody that drives for HVAC company, painting company. Because I think I heard you say this, and I think we had this conversation before. If that man or that woman that has that position in a company, whether it's UPS or a painting company or a plumbing company or whatever, if they get a moving traffic violation on their own time, in their own vehicle, while they're on vacation in another state, it will still make the insurance go up for the company that they work for. Is that true?
Most likely because their license is connected to that company. Now UPS is a big operation, so we probably would never talk to that guy to know whether or not the insurance rate went up. Because they're huge, right? Like I used to do a healthcare here, so that's really how I learned about the brown boys, because one of my friends I knew was a supervisor there. And this was, years ago. And I asked, like he said, the semi guy, he has to have that CDL, but the brown boys that come to our house, they don't have to have a CDL to drive that truck. But yeah, most likely, they're gonna have to report any violations or anything, because most drivers do. But UPS is a company that we'll never hear from the top that, oh, the insurance rates went up because, come on, seriously, how many brown trucks you seen speed? That's a big old truck. That truck really doesn't speed, through the neighborhoods like that. You know what I'm saying? So, it's just like, we talked about another vehicle. You don't hardly see those vehicles. Oh, those vehicles speed.
In the truck,
Yeah, like
the construction truck.
Yeah, so that's how I know that the brown boys don't have to have that, that endorsement to drive that truck. But most likely, I'm sure it is, and I'm sure they have to report if they did get a violation or they hit somebody. It absolutely, and depending on that, I'm sure they have to report, just like, your semi guy or somebody else. They have to report that.
And so the setup for those that's in this particular situation, or you may find yourself in a situation at some point, it's important probably to write this down. If I am sitting across from Barbara Smith, who is the safety manager, safety director, person who wears the hat, who makes the decision in that company, and it happens to be a painting company, it happens to be a roofing company or HVAC company, and you may not even be going in there for CDL. You may be going in there to open up a regular group, but you see these vehicles in the parking lot that can be driven commercially. You guys follow me, right? Yes or yes? What question am I posing to Barbara? Hey, Barbara, let me ask you a quick question. I see that you all have some commercial vehicles in the parking lot. How many employees do you have driving those vehicles? How many different employees do you have driving those vehicles? Oh, we got about 6 or 7 guys who actually drive those vehicles. If those guys have anything hit their license, on or off duty, Does that affect your insurance here? Does that affect your safety scores? That's something that's tied into your company with a DOT number. If Barbara says, yeah, it is, then you want to be able to tell Barbara, I've got a program that the people driving those vehicles can use, that you'll have a transportation attorney deal with those citation violations when it happens, which will lessen the chance of them being as damaging to your safety score or it showing up on your license in a way that it will affect your insurance going up. You can have that conversation with Barbara at that time by asking that question, not just assuming it and then trying to pitch it during the presentation, right? Ask that question at that decision maker appointment. And now that person also knows that you understand a little bit more about the way that your company works, because you ask the question about whether the people driving those vehicles, whether what they do on or off duty is tied into what happens with their insurance. And if the answer is yes, that is a possible, right, 5 or 6 sales that you can make in addition with the CDL membership at that time. Does that make sense to everybody? So I would definitely say utilize that if it's possible in that particular place. And thanks, Dave, for putting commercial drivers plan in the chat for us there down there. So, all right, guys. So I'm gonna go into a question here that we have on our sheet, Sharanda. This one might be difficult. I don't know. Could be difficult, possibly. So the question is about having fun. Having fun. Like, how do you have fun while prospecting? And I understand that question because I do sales training. So I understand the idea of thinking, man, I really need to be able to enjoy myself when I'm doing this so that it's not so stressful, it's not so anxiety driven, right? I'm not so reluctant to do it. We get that. So I'll give you guys a couple of tips that you can use. May or may not work for you, depends on what your dynamics are, whether you're in some country area where it's just you and you can't find anybody to work with, things like that. It may or may not apply, but I'll throw some things out there. And I'm sure that Sharanda and all of the prospecting that she does, she'll have some things that she can bring up as well. So to me, in my experience, when it comes to sales, if you're reluctant about going out or making phone calls or any of that, when it comes to prospecting, whether you're doing it physically out in the open and door knocking, or whether you're making calls. One of the first things I would tell you to do for fun is find somebody to do it with. Find somebody to do it with. One of the best things you can do to add fun to prospecting is having a workout partner or somebody that you can actually do the business with, because it really does help you deflect the no's, the shutdowns, the objections, all those. And you can do that in person, or you can do it when you're just making phone calls. And here's a couple of different ways. If you're going in the field, one, if you're going to use a field trainer and you're working with a field trainer that's going out with you, then that solves that problem. Now, every field trainer is not going to go out with you, so that may not be the case with the field trainer that you're working with, right? They may not go out into the field with you to just simply prospect. So if that's the case, then find somebody else in your area who is looking to prospect. Ask some of the field trainers that you've spoken to. There should be a field training call going on in your region that you can get on that call and find out who else is prospecting in that area. There's ways by going to your local meeting or your Super Saturdays, or just having conversations in all of the groups and calls and Zooms that Legal Shield offers to find out whether there's somebody else in your area that's doing that kind of prospecting. If it is, see if you can sync calendars with that person and go out with that person. It will definitely encourage you to go out more. It'll keep you from coming up with an excuse to back off. And it'll be a little bit funner when you go out with somebody, because it doesn't hurt so bad or hit so bad when somebody says, no, get out of here, we're not interested, whatever, because it's two of you all and y'all can kind of laugh it off. It's not just you getting your feelings hurt. So that's one way out there in the field. If you're making calls, you guys have heard me mention this before, find you a calling partner that y'all can do Zoom. So that would look like, let's take Adrian Smith, somebody else I can see up there. If me and Adrian Smith both said we want to make phone calls every day, then we're going to find out when it's a good time for us both to make phone calls. All of those times aren't going to meet. There might be times that Adrian's making calls and I'm not. I'm making calls that Adrian's not. But it may be some times that we're both going to make a determination that we're going to make phone calls. One of the tips that I used to do, and I used to have people on my team do as well, is take a laptop or desktop, maybe a tablet, some other device that you're not using to make your calls, and do a Zoom, set up a Zoom. You and that person both get on that Zoom. They can either set it up from their side and you can join it, or you can set it up from your side and they can join it. Cut the Zoom on. Now, me and Adrian, I have a Zoom set up. So I'm in my office, just like you see me right now, right? And to my right, but on the camera, is it my right? Yeah, it's my right on camera too. So on my right, I have a tablet set up here that's got Adrian making his calls, and I'm making my calls right here. So if I look to the right, I can see on the Zoom where he's got his Zoom set up almost like a camera looking at him make his phone calls, right? And then when he's looking at his Zoom, he's looking at me make my phone calls. Now we feel like we're making calls together. It gives you a little bit more confidence, a little bit more, you're a little bit less reluctant to make calls. And you also feel like, okay, I gotta do this now because I'm doing this with somebody else. So I can't not make calls today because I have a Zoom plan with Adrian for us to make calls together. So it kind of gives you that feel that you get on a Tuesday Blitz where you know that other people are making calls at the same time. Hopefully that makes sense, right? So you can set that Zoom up, right? Boom, you got it there. Now I'm making my phone calls. When I look to the right, I see Adrian making his phone calls, and we may speak to each other in between calls. If I realize that he's not on the phone, he realized I'm not on the phone. I'm like, Adrian, how's it going over there? And he's like, man, I made about 4 phone calls. I haven't gotten any answers. I got a list of people. I'm gonna keep calling. Now I've got somebody that right, they're going through the same sales process right now that I'm going through. That's very helpful if you do that. That makes it a little fun to be able to have somebody, you feel a little bit more confident to have somebody doing it that way as well. So those are 2 ways, whether you're outside or inside, that you can look at having some fun while you're doing it. And there's also some gamifying ways you can do it too as well. But I'm gonna turn it over to Sharanda and see what tips that she has here too as well on things that you can do to make it a little bit fun.
Yeah, so definitely I found that you got to be interested.
That's good.
I mean, you really do. Like, you really got to be interested in the product, got to be interested in helping the people. You got to understand that the compensation plan is different. So you still got to stay excited with that because all that matters. You'll stop doing it if you're not interested. It'll become boring. A lot of people think the industry is hard to learn. They don't want to talk the language. So that's the first thing. It has to be interesting to you. It has to be something you want to know more about, you want to learn more about, and you'll stick and stay. Knocking on doors for me was easier when I did have a workout partner, a business partner, that we were out in the field. Being at home, making dials can get bored. It can get lonely, but if you're just making dials, if that's what you're doing. But to enjoy it also, when I was in the field, I looked for icebreakers, and I used to tell the story how my shoes was the icebreaker because I wore jeans and I wore colorful tennis shoes. So I always had on a nice pair of colorful shoes, and the people would always compliment me on my shoes, and that would be my icebreaker. So, just little ways like that, still when I go out now, like if I have appointments out, I'm most likely going to have on some red tennis shoes because they are going to draw attention. And like for me, that was the icebreaker. But for the most part, I think you have to be interested in the industry and what you're doing. And that's just, I say that's how I am, because anything that's boring to me is not interesting. I mean, like if I'm not interested, I'm definitely not going to have fun with it. So you got to be interested, I think. And I think that's the most important thing, and everything else will follow. You'll figure it out.
I think that's an interesting point of view though, because especially when you're doing sales, particularly for a company like Legal Shield, where there's other things that you can sell, and somebody may have proposed that you sell this, or proposed that you sell the identity theft, or proposed that you sell a small business plan. So I think adding on to Sharanda Ivy's point, it is important to make sure that you want to be selling it, because it's going to be very difficult to have fun if you don't actually want to sell this. And you're really going to want to have to sell CDL to sell it, because it's such a niche market. That's not something you sell just to be selling. Is that fair? Because I'll say it, again, I've said it 1,000 times on this call. In my opinion, when you're selling this plan in the field, you have to know more about the field in the industry than you need to know about this particular product in this aspect. Because this membership actually doesn't do a whole bunch. It's just the little that it does is huge in that industry. Is that fair? So in this particular space, where if you're selling the family plan, it's really important to know every aspect of what it does, because you don't need to know more about life than you need to know about this plan to a plan that's playing in somebody's life. Is that fair to say? But on the CDL side, you need to know more about the CDL or the commercial driving logistics industry than you need to know about this membership to sell this membership. Because selling this membership, really all you're doing is putting them in a position to have access to an attorney to deal with the citation and violation that they may or may not get, right? The other parts of the plan that we do here, you don't use it a whole bunch. There's not a whole bunch of drivers who use other parts of this plan outside of when they get a citation or violation. So that is the most frequently used portion of that CDL plan. But if you don't really understand why them fighting that is important for their MVR, their livelihood, for the safety score the company they drive for to prevent them from being unnecessarily audited, how they can be shut down. If you don't understand all those things about the logistics industry, then it takes the passion out the membership sale. So in this space, it's particularly important, if you're going to have fun with this, to really dive into what exactly is this product doing to help. Because remember, at the end of every sale, it's always about you're selling a result, right? You're never selling a product, you're never selling a service. You're always selling a result. What is the result that Michael is going to have when he uses this program? What is the result that Daryl was going to have when he calls his attorney because he got a moving violation or citation in another state, and he really would not have to, he would like to not have to go to court to fight that himself, or just pay it because he feels like if he doesn't pay it, he has to go to court to fight it. What result is he going to get when that happens, right? What result is Barbara going to get if she gets pulled over and realizes that, look, I've already got a serious violation on my record. If this one sticks, my license is going to be suspended. What is the result going to be for Barbara when that happens? That's what you're selling, a result. So you have to understand different things that's happening in the industry that says, hey, if I am a commercial driver with a CDL license and I have a serious violation on my record already, this second serious violation in this specific amount of time could cause my license to be suspended. So the difference between I'm just selling because I'm in sales, I'm just selling because I'm in PPLSI, I'm just selling because I want to make money, or I'm selling because I love the industry, the difference is Sharanda Ivy. And what do I mean by that is Sharanda ended up digging so much into the CDL space because she was enjoying it that she opened up a logistics, her and her husband opened up a logistics company. That's how passionate she was about that industry. Now, that's the extreme side. Am I saying that the only thing that states that you are taking this serious is that you open up a logistics company? I'm not. What I'm saying is she obviously was more interested in helping companies in that industry than she was about making a sale so that she can create a commission to pay bills in her house. Is that fair to say? So having fun is about going back to a conversation that we don't have time for today, which is passion and purpose and all of that stuff. Anything you're doing, you should be doing because you want to be doing it. If you are in PPLSI because somebody twisted your arm and you still haven't gotten the grip to understand the power of what you're selling, you probably shouldn't be selling it. Because it's going to be difficult to have fun in a space when you're doing it because somebody suggested that you do it versus you're doing it because you found that this is something that brings some kind of enlightenment to your life. It brings some kind of fulfillment to your life to know that I'm helping these truck drivers, male or female, in the situation that they're in when they get stopped. That their livelihood could be taken if they don't have the proper attorney, right? That it's not fair for them to have to be off the road for a full day and lose a full day's income because they may have gotten pulled over by a cop that was just having a bad day. Right? So the deal is everybody deserves to have their day in court, but you don't have to be there to have a good day in court. Right? The attorney can represent you on that good day in court, right? While you go and you do whatever it is you do for a living. And I'm sure the truck drivers on the Zoom can really, relate to that. They've got to be able to stay on the road and keep driving. If they're wrong, then that's what's going to end up happening in the court. And if they're right, then they should be able to be there. Hopefully, we hope that that's what our justice system is going to do for them. But you've got to be passionate enough to say, this is what I'm doing this because I love doing it. This is not an additional sale that I'm looking to make to make some extra money because I'm trying to leave my 9 to 5 because I'm trying to build a business. That needs to be in the formula, right? The wantingness to walk away from your job and make money as a business owner, you have to have that need, that want, but you also have to have a passion for what you're doing. If you want to do it with the fun, the passion, the purpose, if you want to get up on fire to do it, you've got to want to do it. It can't be pushed upon. So I think that Sharonda's angle on that is a really good angle because we kind of skipped over the whole idea of wanting to do it to how can I do it technically to have fun instead of saying head and heart, like how can I do it within myself to have fun doing it. So hopefully that was helpful for you all. It is 9:32. So we're gonna be closing out here, but hopefully these different tips and these practices and these ideas that we gave you will be helpful to you in the field. You can use these as you move forward. Of course, next week we'll be back here doing this all over again to be able to help you guys move a little bit forward in the sales that you make here in the CDL space. And we'll be touching on some different topics here as well so that you guys can get some benefit out of this. So with that being said, any closeouts here, Sharanda? You good?
I'm good.
You good? So don't forget, Sharanda's call is on Thursday. Her accountability call is Thursday. So if you are a little bit more advanced or want to be a little bit more advanced and making those calls and closing those deals and changing your conversion rate, then you may want to get on that Thursday call because you're saying, I'm making the calls, I'm making the dials, I'm ready to make the calls and dials, but I need a little bit more support. That's happening there on Thursday nights. So get involved in that. And then outside of that, we've got our certification trainings that as they come up, get refreshed if you haven't taken it in a while. And then we'll see you guys again here back Monday for our call that we do here. So thanks everybody for joining.
I want to promote that. It's actually free for everybody this month. So you want to go in the back office and sign up. It is this weekend. So you want to get registered. I would register at least by Friday. They do keep it open on Saturday mornings, but I'm told that it's free for everybody this month. So that's different. So you better get in where you fit in.
I don't know when the last time they did a free one.
No.
I ain't never heard of a free CDLP class.
No.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
That's the first.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay,
Sharanda.
well, go figure it out. Yeah, go jump in. It's hold on, let me tell you. Well, you'll know when you go to the thing, it's like 400 and something. But I think Chris made an announcement. They said I missed it, but she made a video. But it's free. So when you go into your thing to register, 404. They say it's free. It should be free out there. And if you have any problems with registration, email think it's business solutions training to let them know.
Yeah, that I don't think I remember it ever being free in my time of being, you know, like being a certification trainer and doing it. I don't think it's been free. So I would jump on this, guys, right? Whether you feel like you need a refresher or not, go ahead and take it. It's free. You might hear some good stuff that you forgot about. So go ahead and get on that. So again, guys, we look forward to seeing you guys next week, Monday. Remember, you can always ask your questions on the CDL on the Commercial Drivers Facebook page as well. So we'll see you guys all next week. Everybody have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good
Good
night.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night, all.
Good night.
Very good
Good
information.
night.
Good night on YouTube as well.
Good night. Thanks for everything.
Good night,
Good
everyone.
night.
Good night.